Hello there, welcome back. So I now have my 6 tabs. This is for the top, and I now have my curtain with my centre fold firmly marked. This is the right side and all the seams are sealed, although I do need to trim my loose ends, and the bottom is hemmed as well, except for the tacking up, but I'll do that when I hang the curtains, just because that's how I do them. Alright, so what I want my tabs to do is I want this centre seam to be square in the middle, and I want them like that. Now, because we're doing French seams, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this sticking up, and then when I turn it inside out I can then sew in my seams. Now this again is aesthetics. I would recommend for all these type of curtains that we go for a 6-inch interval. Now if you're using very heavy fabric, maybe sort of medieval tapestry, then I would make these tabs thicker. If you were going for a sort of standard weight fabric, a nice cotton, then I would go for 2-inch wide tabs. But because I'm going for a nice light taffeta and I do want it to look nice and light, then I'm going for slightly smaller. Now the middle one should be in the middle, and then what I'm doing is I'm matching up the other one, so I can use that pin, and then technically I'm now committed to sewing. So yes, always measure twice. You know, if you're not sure about French seams and which way they're going to end up, then yeah, maybe even work it out on a bit of paper, fold a bit of paper. So there we are, there we are, and there we are. So I'm ready to go. I'm going to line it up with the machine. What I want to make sure is that I catch the lining underneath as well. I've got to watch out for those pins. The last thing I want to do is to break my needle. Now you'll hear the difference in the machine when it goes over these tabs, just literally because they're, you know, quite a few layers of fabric. I'm just going to allow my sewing machine to take the fabric. Now because, well, traditionally, the fabric you use to line is not the same as the fabric you use to make the front. We do have to be aware that sometimes some types of fabric are better at being picked up by the machine. So obviously I'm saying that the machine is going to like the lining, and it might be a bit more different with the taffeta. So just going to have a little look, check that these are straight. This is the time to check and to change your mind. Make sure that there's no puckers in the fold. All I'm using is the closed scissors just to do that. Make sure there's no, and that they're not sticking off at an angle, because that means I've sewn them in wrong. Okay, so I'm happy. Next stage, turning inside out. It's good practice, isn't it? So what we have now is the rough ends of these tabs. I'm going to push out the corners just so that we've got that nice crisp, and it will make the difference to the hanging as well of the curtains. And then I just drop the whole curtain on the floor. But sometimes my problems are my own. I'm going to give it a good shake. Now, I don't need these tabs sticking up here being a nuisance. I'm going to get rid of them. It's just going to make it all a bit blotchy. I've got to do it sooner or later, so I'm doing it now. Lovely. But one thing I do have to make sure is that when I sew this top seam here, these tabs are hanging down straight. So easy enough. I've got 2 layers of taffeta here. This is the fold. I'm going to begin sewing And I can feel the ridge there, but if I'm unsure, I can stick my hand in here and just make sure that those tabs are still hanging down straight. Of course, I'm going over a lot of fabric when I'm sewing over these tabs. You can see I'm just pushing it up from under my finger, and that is just to check again that the tabs are lying downwards. Okay, so yes, when you're going over thick fabric, it's entirely up to you. You can slow the machine down and turn it by hand. When you know your machine very well, I kind of like, I'm not recommending this, I actually speed up so that I've got momentum to help me push through. If you are sewing really heavy fabric and you put it under the sewing machine but the foot doesn't go down, then always make sure you put the lever down even if the foot isn't actually going down, because otherwise you're not connecting with the bobbin. Alright, yeah, I'm talking too much. Okay, inside out, round the right way now. So we have our tabs sitting up as neatly as we can. We do have to trim all our frayed edges. Yeah, it's the price of sewing with taffeta. Honestly, I think if I leave a square of taffeta on the room and then measure it in the morning, it'll have shrunk by about a third. So, now if our measurements were correct and we were very patient with ourselves, we can just line it up and these should match. But, yeah, if you can't sew in one go, I thoroughly recommend safety pins. And not only do I recommend sort of safety pins, when you place it, mentally note that the sticky down thing, that's the line, okay? Because otherwise you've got a line here where it's not stuck down, or a line here, so you're now out by a good ½ inch. Okay, thank you ever so much for watching. It was actually a lot longer than I hoped, and yeah, but such is life. Alright, thank you ever so much.